Hello, and welcome to our first episode of Ghostly Gossip, the podcast where we discuss all things paranormal and our experiences with them. So, to introduce myself, my name is Derry. I'm from the UK, and I run a paranormal group called Devon and Cornwall Paranormal Investigators, or D.C.P.I for short, which is definitely how we're going to refer to it because it's too long otherwise, and I kind of wish I thought about that before. As a warning, though, throughout the podcast, it may include swearing. Now, we're starting off our first episode interviewing my partner in crime, Roz. Roz is a co-founder of the group and does all the face-to-face aspects of our group, and without her, we genuinely wouldn't investigate anywhere. Okay, so Roz, let's start with, how did you get into the paranormal world?
I got into the paranormal world when I was very young. It stems back to when I was 9 and my father passed away.
Okay.
And for quite a few months after he died, I could still hear him getting up in the night to go and spend a penny. I could even hear the toilet flush and hear him go back upstairs. So one night I ran to the toilet when I heard it flushed, and it hadn't actually flushed. But you could still hear the water system going, and you could still smell him in the house when he used to cook sprats and chitlins. It had that really repulsive smell.
Sprats and chitlins?
And you could still smell it. It was pretty rancid. And also his aftershave and his own bodily odour, you could still smell it now and then.
Oh, wow.
And then as I got older and I had my own children, I used to take them on the hills for a drive on a Sunday afternoon. And we used to play the left-right game, so the children would shout left or right at a junction, and I'd turn in that direction. And we'd got to a junction, and I could see a little boy wearing shorts and a T-shirt with little daps, and his little socks were pulled up with a little baseball cap on, and he was holding on to a low branch on a tree, staring right at me. And as I pulled away from the junction, I said, I'm going to go back to talk to the little boy, because I was worried that he was there and there wasn't anybody else around. And it was only literally less than a minute, and he'd gone. And I said to the children didn't see him. They were saying, Mummy, there wasn't a boy there. I didn't see any boy. But you couldn't have missed him. He was that clear.
I bet that was unsettling.
So that was quite bizarre. And just over the years, my interest has grown and grown.
And now you're stuck doing it with us?
And now I do it for a living. It's great.
So obviously you've probably been to a fair few places over the years, working with different companies and things. What has been your favourite place that you visited to investigate?
Bizarrely enough, it would be Shepton Mallet Prison in Somerset, UK. I think it's just my favourite place because it was the first place I ever investigated on a paranormal investigation. And on that time that I visited, you name the activity, it happened. It was such an awesome night. Saw shadow figures, cell doors slamming, footsteps that walked right up to me and then stopped as if somebody was stood right in front of me, but there was no one there. American soldiers talking through the spirit box and answering the questions that I was asking with relevant answers. It was an incredible place, and it's always got a special place in my heart for that.
Wow, and I'm guessing that's a place you've now visited quite a few times, isn't it? Have you tended to have activity every time you've gone? Has it ever been kind of quiet for you?
No, we've had one quiet night, but even on that quiet night, in 10 visits that I've had, we've had one quiet night, but even then we still had activity. And there's also a little girl there who's 5 years old called Emily, who will always come and talk to me on a Ouija board every time I visit.
Oh, that's awesome, because my experience with Shepton was very, very different. Like, I've been, I think, 2, maybe 3 times now, and kind of the most I've got is kind of like catball and K2 activity and a cell door slam once. So it's a completely different experience we've both had in the same place, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's a very interesting place, and if it's going to play, it will play.
Yeah. It's one of those all or nothings, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But I've only had a few where cell doors haven't slammed. C-wing is the best wing for cell doors, I think, in my opinion. That's the one I've had most doors being slammed on.
And do you like run when they slam? Because I would.
No, I usually actually head for the ones that have slammed, bizarrely enough.
Yeah, that's why you're the brave one out of us two.
True.
Alright, so we've done your favourite place of being Shepton Mallet. What is your scariest place you've investigated? Bear in mind you clearly don't get scared that easily.
There's a couple of places, really, that stick out for me. One is Bronigarth. It's like a hospital up in Snowdonia in Wales. it's just in general a very, very scary place. And I think the spirits that abide there are not the nicest of spirits. They're certainly not very friendly. And Oakhampton Castle in Devon is my other one, because of a very horrible experience being chased out by the hellhounds, and we actually caught the sound on video.
Yeah, and if you want to hear that, the screeching we caught, and my God, being there is 1,000 times worse than the recording, but even the recording gives you EBGBs. That can be found on our website under the investigation for Oakhampton Castle. But yeah, I'm with you. That was the scariest place I visited as well, and I can tell you now, as much as you want to go back, and you've been back, I'm not going anywhere near it. Ever.
It was the little white man on the wall that got me the most, I think, really.
Do you want to tell the story? Because I think that is one of our scariest experiences together anyway.
We were there doing some vigils, doing some glass work and things in a Ouija board, and then we heard some shuffling behind us. So I stood up with my torch and span round, and something made me shine my torch up onto the top of the wall, bearing in mind the wall is about 20 foot high, and there's nothing around it. There's no trees, there's no river, nothing like that. It was all very quiet, and I shone my torch up, and all I could see is, if you could imagine the old time when you used to do the Chad man with his hands in his face peeking over the top of a wall. It was literally like that, but it was all white with pointed ears and dark eyes, and as soon as my light hit him, he ducked down behind the wall, disappeared, but there was no wings flapping, so it wasn't a bird, and there was no thud when it landed. It was just vanished silently.
Yeah, and I was there when that was happening, and my back was to where you were looking, but I didn't hear a noise, anything, when you freaked out, kind of, reacted to that. So there wasn't any flapping, there wasn't any kind of animal noise, and I'm in nature a lot. I stay in my van a lot, as you know, but I've never heard an animal make that noise. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Ever.
It was very, very bizarre and very, very scary at the time, especially when it's only two women at the present. We were the only two that were there, and I think they might have taken advantage of that situation.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. So the next question is kind of the creepiest thing that I want to ask is kind of the creepiest thing that's happened to you or that you've witnessed on an investigation.
Apart from what happened at Oakhampton Castle, I would imagine it would probably be when we investigated Bodmin Jail.
Okay.
Fairly recently, and we were in what they class as the landscape room, and there's a few seats in this room and a bit of fiberglass hills and things, and a bridge and a false water of the river going through the room. And I was in there with a group of people, and this angry spirit had tried to take over one of the guests and was trying to talk to me through him by moving him backwards and forwards for answers. And then he went into a different person and did the same. But when he entered the second person, this person was staring right into my eyes.
Oh, God.
And I could tell that it definitely wasn't the physical person that was there. This was somebody else. And it was just very evil. The way this person was looking at me was pure evil. And I just asked, "You're not a very nice person." And he agreed. And we had this conversation going that he admitted that he was in the prison for murder, and he'd murdered several people. He'd also murdered people in the jail, and he'd had issues with the governor of the jail at that time, and he admitted that he wanted to hurt me.
Oh, God.
So me being me said, "Give it your best shot."
Of course, yeah.
Because that's the type of person I am. I don't back down. Anyway, this went on for a while, and then I decided it's time to get going. So we moved away from where he was, and everybody was fine. Everybody was back to normal. And we were literally just standing around being quiet to see if we could hear anything and calling out. And I started coughing, and I was stood on my own in the middle of the room. And this cough got worse and worse until I was literally gasping for breath, and I could feel my neck tightening and tightening and tightening. And it was like I was whistling to try and breathe and really struggling to breathe. And I ended up on my knees on the floor, waving my arms around. And then that came over and helped me. And all I could hear was everyone shouting my name and asking if I'm all right, but I couldn't physically answer. And after a few seconds, which felt like a few hours, I eventually got my breath back and moved away again to a separate area of the room, and I was absolutely fine after that. My neck was checked for markings, and I did have some red marks on the side of my neck, but they were only very, very faint.
Yeah, no, that must have been terrifying.
Very experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was quite scary not having any control, and there was nothing there to push away or try to get off.
Yeah, sounds like he kind of beelined to you. I mean, you did tell him to give it his best shot, and he delivered.
Yeah, I did. I did kind of ask for it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a go at the man.
You get what you asked for.
Kind of ask for it.
I haven't really investigated Bodmin Jail. Like, I've stayed there on my own and investigated through like work, but I've not done a proper investigation there. It's definitely somewhere I would like to visit and investigate properly. But maybe not the room you've just mentioned. Okay, so I want to know the top 5 places you would love to investigate. Not necessarily the UK, over the world. Where would you want to go and see and investigate?
One of them would have to be an American mental asylum.
Okay.
Any would do, an American mental asylum.
Oh yeah, because the UK one at Bronigarth wasn't enough, no?
Yeah, I would love to investigate an American mental asylum, purely because it's just got that pull for me. I want to go there and see how bad it is.
Okay, all right.
Right. Newsham Park Asylum in Wales, Cheshire Way, I think it is. That's another on my to-do list, is Newsham Park Asylum.
Yeah.
Pendle Hill and Lancaster Castle. I really want to get to the top of that hill and see what they can do for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've never investigated in Pendle, but I visited there and did kind of like the witch trials tour and things like that. And even in the middle of the day with, 30 people on a tour, it's definitely got a very heavy vibe, I would say. It's an intense place, even just to visit in the day. So I'm totally down. That would be an incredible investigation to do.
Niddry Street Vaults in Scotland is a must for me, because I would like to stand in the circle in that little cavey bit, and stand where they say don't stand in the circle because bad things will happen.
Yeah, of course, because getting strangled by a ghost wasn't enough at Bodmin Jail. You just got to stand in that circle in Scotland as well, see what happens.
Me being me, I would be the first to take a step over the threshold and go into that circle.
I love it though, because if we didn't have you doing that kind of stuff, like, I wouldn't do any of that. Like, you are always the one that I'm like, oh, this is the legend, this is what you're meant to do, and you're like, I will crack on and do that. And I'm like, on your head be it.
I was the foolish one at Holy Trinity Church that when we heard that, let's walk around the tomb 13 times, who was the idiot that walked around it 13 times?
I mean, although, we didn't get any results on that one, which was annoying, but, I don't think you counted right.
Definitely not. Just a mole coming out of his hole.
Okay, so you got one more place.
Alcatraz Prison in San Francisco Bay.
Oh, absolutely. What do you reckon, though? Do you reckon it's going to have a horrible vibe?
I think it would be a very eerie place.
Yeah, definitely eerie.
And I don't think there would be much of an atmosphere. I think it would be very heavy and very angry.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you on that one.
I can't see them inviting us in for a tea.
No, I'm with you on that. Okay, so off the back of that, we've done 5 places you would love to investigate. Is there anywhere you wouldn't want to go that you've kind of watched an investigation on, or you've heard about that you're like, you know what, that's a step too far for me?
No, I'd go anywhere. The scarier the better.
Yeah, well, that's why you do all the face-to-face stuff, and you can go to all those places, have a great time. I'll read your write-up afterwards,
Well, there is literally nowhere I wouldn't investigate.
Once, at least.
I would always investigate the place, but how long I stay for depends on how bad it is.
Yeah, I mean, our shortest trip was definitely Oakhampton Castle, and I think we managed about 40 minutes before we ran out of that place and hurdled the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was about that.
Our shortest visit by far. Okay, so going off places now, I want your favourite piece of equipment and why it's your favourite.
I do have a soft spot for an EVP.
Okay, do you want to explain what that is?
It's an electronic voice phenomena, and it's basically like a little dictaphone, and it records things that go on around you. If the spirits, it will pick up a spirit talking, or it will pick up movement. And it's a really good way that you can just switch it on, push it on to record and leave it somewhere. And then when you go through your evidence later on, if you know that there is nobody in that area that you've placed it in, and you're hearing voices and footsteps, it certainly isn't of the living.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a piece of equipment we use on every single hunt without fail, isn't it?
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. And we've caught so much on it as well. That's the thing. And it picks up volumes that our ears won't necessarily hear as well, which makes it that kind of little bit cooler, because they can be answering questions. We can't hear them until we play it back, and then we're like, oh, they did answer us. Bit late, but
Most definitely, especially when you're doing things and asking questions and you think that you haven't had any responses until you go through your EVP later and you actually realise that actually they did respond. It was just that it was too high a pitch for us to hear physically with our own hearing.
I mean, especially your hearing.
Well, yes, especially my hearing.
I like that. That's a good basic bit of kit, and yeah, we would be lost without that, really, because every time without fail, that's turning that straight on, aren't we?
Probably one of the cheapest pieces of kit.
Yeah, absolutely, because normal dictaphones do this as well. It's not a special bit of kit, it is just a normal dictaphone that's picking that information up. And if you're getting started in ghost hunting, it's definitely one of the things I'd recommend first.
Yeah.
You can do a great hunt with you, an EVP, and something that flashes. Do you know what I mean? That's it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, what is your goal in hunting the paranormal, in doing investigations? Like, what is your goal for doing this?
My goal at an investigation is to get evidence of the paranormal, that's something that cannot be explained. How did it happen? Debunking the situation.
Yeah.
Could it have been the wind? Could it have been an animal? Could it have been nature? Could it have been a living person's voice? No, because there's nobody there at that point in time. It's all about the studying of it to prove 100% that cannot possibly be anything other than paranormal.
And that is one thing I think D.C.P.I, as a group, we're quite kind of strict on, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, if we hear a noise, we will spend ages trying to recreate it, figure out where it came from, understand it, looking at through pictures, going through recordings, sending them to other people so other people can listen, to just try to think if anybody else has got an explanation, and we're very selective with the evidence we put online. Could it be, if there's a chance it could be something else and we can think of another explanation, we won't put it on. It's a case of, when we really don't have any answers, that's the point where we're like, okay, this is something, maybe.
Yes, definitely. There's sometimes times when you get a lot of times where you're disheartened or you get disappointed because everything that's happened is explainable, and then you think, we did it and we didn't get anything. But when you get that one time where it cannot possibly be anything else, the rest of it is history.
Yeah, absolutely. It's those little bits of gold, isn't it?
What we're doing it for is to get that.
Okay, so we're going to end the podcast in a minute with a final question. Do you 100% believe in spirits, in ghosts?
Absolutely.
Not a doubt in your mind?
Absolutely. Not a doubt in my mind. When I go, I'll prove that it's real, because I'll just come and haunt everybody I know.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, mate, being your best friend and all. It's going to be great fun.
You'll be first on my hit list.
I love that. Thanks ever so much for that. Well, thank you for joining us on the podcast today. It's been great to kind of hear a bit more about these things, because we hunt together a lot, but we don't actually talk about these things very much because we're so focused on kind of where we're going and what we're doing next and history of places, that actually we don't often get to talk about these bits, what we've kind of enjoyed the most or scariest places and all of that. So it's been really nice to do that. It's been my pleasure. Hopefully some of you that's listening, you'll be coming and seeing us on some of our investigations in the future. It'd be nice to meet you. Absolutely. So we're on Facebook as Devon and Cornwall Paranormal Investigators. There's also the link to our website there. We're also on Instagram, TikTok. And if you could follow and subscribe to our podcast, because each week we're going to interview different investigators, not necessarily from D.C.P.I, but from other companies and other kind of YouTube channels and things as well. And we'll also be investigating the owners of some of the places we hunted in, to kind of get the view on what it's like to own a property that's haunted and have investigators come in and kind of what the effect of that was for them. So it'd be great for you to join us on another podcast. That's it from us, and yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed Ghostly Gossip and you'll come and gossip with us again soon. Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.